Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our June board meeting. And I would like to ask Ms. Roletter if she would please begin our time with a prayer. Shall we stand?
Please join me in prayer. Ancient Roman philosopher Plutarch once stated, "The mind is not a vessel to be filled, but a fire to be kindled." God, let us be the encouragers for those who spark the fires in the minds of our children. May this board always support our administration, teachers, and staff so that the fires of learning may burn brightly. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. And as we remain standing, and as a reminder of the outstanding students we serve, I'd like to invite one of our students up to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Tonight we've invited Luke Whitehouse to lead us. Luke is a rising fifth grader at Peplum Road Elementary and is a member of the school's All-Star Chorus and Morning News team. This past year he was named to the AB Honor Roll and was a recipient of the Outstanding Citizens Award. So would you please lead us in the pledge, Luke?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Luke, would you please ask your mom to step forward so we could get a picture of you?
And his dad.
Oh, and I'm sorry. Dad counts too, please. I'm sorry. I didn't recognize Dad. I apologize. Thank you so much. We're very proud.
Tammy, thank you.
And again, I'd like to thank Vice Chairman Bush and Expressions Unlimited for generously donating these beautiful flowers, and they always inspire us to do our best work. So before we get started with board elections tonight, I have a gift that I would like to present, if I may. Ms. Bush. And a gift for Miss LaVentus Wells, and a gift for Miss Wells.
Thank you.
Say thank you.
Maybe I have to last it. Yes,
So if you all would like to open it together, go ahead. And what I want to say is that I really have enjoyed every minute of working with this team. We've worked together really well. The wisdom, advice, caring, responsiveness has been just absolutely phenomenal from this team. So I had a little memento for you to say thank you and to remember our time together. So.
Very nice.
Crystal, I really appreciate this. I think this might be the first book I'll read this summer. And Terry, you see this book I'm reading? There you go. Okay? Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Madam Chair, but before Ms. Bush does her thing, I just want to tell you that I've had the privilege of working under the leadership of many board chairs. But I will tell you that I've learned more under your leadership and has felt such a part of both the executive team with Ms. Bush than I ever have before. And I want to commend you on all of your achievements and all that you're doing for Greenville County Schools. And I would just say, years and years and years and years ago, when I was a lifeguard at Ramsgate Country Club, their Crystal Ball was one of the swimmers. That little rascal was everywhere in that pool. She was something else, just as she is today. Very special. So, Crystal, thank you so much for everything.
Thank you so much. That means a lot, and I think we set out to make sure that every voice was heard. We set out to make sure that we increased opportunities for meaningful engagement by the board. We set out for opportunities to work more collaboratively with the superintendent and staff. And then I had one secret initiative, which was to see the board play charades. So I think we did everything we set out to do. So, thank you very much.
Yes, Madam Chairman.
Yes,
I would
ma'am.
like to take just a moment since we're making recognitions, and between what Ms. Levinas Wales, I will ditto that how it seems like it's, some days it seems like this year and a half have moved very rapidly, and there have been others to where all those accomplishments that you talk about we've made have frankly just worn me completely out. You have raised the bar, and I think we've all raised the bar on what it means, and I think I think the fact that we had to there, it was that 5-year plan where we had a lot. There was just a lot that fell in this year. So, but I want to thank you because having served as chair and know anybody on this board that has served as chair, when you are asked, it is an honor just to even be considered. When someone comes to you and says, would you be our leader? That is quite an honor. But when you take seriously that commitment and the amount of time that it takes away from your family and your work life and the sacrifices that you have to make just to make all of us look good when we come in the room up here, whether we agree with each other or we disagree, that we act civilly toward each other, and that we all, as you said, have an opportunity to, whether we agreed or not, to have our voice heard. And so I want to thank you for that. And as once again,
Wait, I've got my pen.
well, you have your pens from your first year, and this is another way for you to celebrate a nice dinner with your husband, who would probably love to see you every now and then now.
Thank you so much.
And
He
then
might.
this is also a small gift. And
Debbie.
thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to serve with you.
Oh, my gosh. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I sincerely thank you all, and also Dr. Royster and his staff for making this so, making it possible, and by giving me the tools and knowledge I need, especially some of the long support sessions that Mr. Webb needed to provide, and also working with Mr. Barber and all of you. But I especially want to thank Nancy Fitzer for coming in with a new board chair. That would have been a lot easier for you if you'd had somebody with some experience when you walked in, but you got up to speed quickly and helped me make sure that I had everything I needed right when I needed it. So thank you, and your gift is in your office. So, thanks so much. Okay, the next item of business is the election of board officers. And I want to remind everybody that this is going to be a little different in that usually we make the elections and we trade seats and we take those positions right away. But our new policy says that the new officers will begin their work on July 1st. So what we will do tonight is determine the chair-elect, the vice chair-elect, and the secretary-elect, and we will remain in place and complete the meeting with the current leadership team.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Roletter.
may I have a moment to make a statement?
Sure.
Just to go on record, I would like it to be known that I am withdrawing my name as my letter of intent for board chair.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Roletter. I will take your name off the list.
Thank you.
And give me just a moment to get the record straight so I follow the procedure properly. Thank you very much.
Madam Chairman,
Mr. Lewis.
If I could also withdraw my name as board chair candidate as well.
Okay. Mr. Lewis. Okay. Mr. Meek?
Off the list also.
Okay. Mr. Meek? Okay, we are going to do this by a show of hands and in alphabetical order as the slate of officers was presented to me by the board secretary. By a show of hands, all those in favor of Mr. Chuck Sailors, please raise your hand. Okay, Mr. Sailors, you are, congratulations, our chair-elect. Thank you very much. I'm sorry. No, I don't understand.
I was just noticing that the policy says vice chair.
Would you read to me what you're seeing?
Internal organization of officers' elections. Officers of the board shall be chair, vice chair, secretary. Under item 2.01 of the election of officers. Sorry, I've lost my voice. You see what I'm talking about?
I don't understand why that's an issue, so I'm not really sure what your point is.
Just that the policy is that it's chair, vice chair, and secretary. It's not a big deal. That's why I didn't.
Oh, instead of elect?
Yeah. But I don't know which is, I can't even remember which is correct at this point, but the policy says vice chair.
Chair as of July 1st.
Yes, chair as of July 1st, since they don't officially take office until then. Our next...
Madam Chairman,
Mr. Lewis.
I'd just like to remove my name as a candidate for the vice chair and secretary positions.
Okay. Just a moment.
I did.
Okay. By a show of hands, then, all those in favor of Miss Linda Leventis Wells as vice chair, please raise your hand. Congratulations. You are our vice chair to be, incoming vice chair as of July 1. So you get to have two roles for a little while.
I'd like to thank everyone. Thank you so much.
The next item of business is the election of our board secretary. And I will read the names for this position now as well. All those in favor of Mr. Meek? All those in favor of Glenda Morrison Fair? Ms. Morrison Fair, congratulations. You are now our secretary-elect. Congratulations.
And Madam Chairman, let me say that I too thank each and every one of you for your vote of confidence, and I look forward to working with this executive committee.
And would you like to start tonight?
No.
Are you sure?
Thank you very much.
Want to sit with me and do it?
Our next item of business is the adoption of the consent calendar. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. And the motion carries. The next item on our agenda is the appearance of visitors. I do not believe we have any visitors signed up. Oh, do we?
We have one.
Okay, I'm sorry. Ms. Leventis Wells, would you please read the rules of engagement for us?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Welcome to those who have signed up to speak tonight before the Board of Trustees. And thank you for your interest in Greenville County Schools. Before we begin, let me remind everyone of the following procedures. As you step up, the speaker will call your name. He or she, you're already at the podium, at the end of the board dais where there is a microphone and light system. Each speaker has up to 3 minutes to speak to the board. The light will begin. It will be green for the first 2 minutes and will turn yellow when there is 1 minute remaining. That will be your allotted time. In keeping with board policy KCA, abusive language or personnel attack aimed at students or staff members will not be permitted. All speakers are expected to behave in an orderly and respectful manner. The board will not engage in discussion with the speaker or respond to comments. The superintendent will designate a member of the staff to respond to each speaker in an appropriate and timely manner. You look like a lady that will engage us for 3 minutes, and I don't see us having a problem tonight. Thank you.
Welcome, Ms. Smith.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Several months ago, I was watching television, and I saw a commercial about a job fair that was being held by the Greenville County School Board, and I thought, wow, I could use a few dollars, and I applied, and I was hired. And I was told at orientation that using profanity was ground for termination and sounded reasonable to me. And I was very happy and content doing my work. I lost 19 pounds, and I can do this till I retire. But something very unpleasant happened to me on November 28, 2016 while I was working. And I thought that was bad, but what happened in the weeks and months that followed seemed like a nightmare to me. At my final appeal hearing, I promised the assistant superintendent that I would be heard. So I'm here tonight to be heard. Today, as I was surfing the internet, I found an article about resilience. It said resilience is an ability to adapt and bounce back when things don't go as planned. Resilient people don't wallow or dwell on failures. They acknowledge the situation, learn from their mistakes, and move forward. Dr. Cal Crow from the Center for Learning Connections said that resilient people have positive images of the future, they have solid goals, and a desire to achieve those goals. They are empathetic and compassionate. They think of themselves they don't think of themselves as victims. Resilient people don't let setbacks and bad events affect other unrelated areas of their lives. They don't blame themselves when bad events occur. Resilient people view a difficulty as a challenge, not a paralyzing event. Resilient people are committed to their lives and their goals, and they have a compelling reason to get out of bed in the morning. Commitment isn't just restricted to their work. They are committed to their relationships, their friendships, and the causes they are passionate about, and their religious and spiritual beliefs. I have spent a lot of time and energy in the last few months improving my technology skills and making sure that I do not become a bitter and hostile person. The only way to avoid unpleasant events is to live in a shuttered and meager existence, never trying anything new or taking a risk. Few of us want to live like that. Thank you for your time and attention. Have a wonderful summer, and I'll probably see you back in August. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next order of business is the superintendent's report. Dr. Royster?
Thank you, Dr. O'Connor. I have several
items tonight in the superintendent's report, none of which are very lengthy items, but I think are all important. And first, let me certainly congratulate the newly elected officers of the board and express my appreciation for those outgoing officers and to you, Dr. O'Connor, for your leadership as chair for the past, I guess actually 18 months as opposed to the last year. So thank you for your efforts, your hard work, and your dedication, as well as the other officers.
Thank you very much.
We have with us tonight two newly appointed assistant principals. We'd like to recognize them at this time. Josh Albin, who will be the new assistant principal at Bryson Elementary School. Josh, welcome. Congratulations on your new appointment. And I believe you have your principal, Andrea Boggs, with you tonight, so supporting you in your new venture. Congratulations and welcome.
Thank you.
Also, Aaron McCauley, Aaron, who is the newly appointed assistant principal at Brushy Creek Elementary. Congratulations. I think you maybe have your family with you as well.
My daughter Emma, my husband Kevin, and my daughter Anne.
Welcome to each of you. Congratulations. We look forward to having both of you serve in those administrative roles, and know that you'll be a great asset to the schools that you're serving, the students that you serve, and to the district as well. I have a very brief sort of academic report as the superintendent's report tonight, something I think all of us sort of look forward to each year. You know, last month at the superintendent's report sort of recapped a lot of the accomplishments and achievements from throughout the year. And this was a piece of data that was missing then, and we have it now. Class of 2017, the scholarship totals $128,088,956. Class of 2018, our total for this year, $138,964,114. This is the graphic that will go up out on the media. I get later tonight, Ms. Brinkman, or first thing in the morning, or maybe right this minute?
8 p.m.
8 p.m. So again, great accomplishment, a great way to close out the year, as has been true for a number of years now, ever increasing amounts of scholarship, opportunities afforded to our graduating seniors, and you all certainly have a great role in providing those opportunities through the policies that you set, the budget, the financial resources that you provide, and certainly all the folks in this room that work, whether at the school level or at the district level in the support function. Everybody in this district has a role in helping to ensure that our students are prepared and qualify for those sorts of scholarship opportunities. So that's a pleasure to share that with you tonight. And we'll leave that graphic up there until the next order of business comes up. But I think that's a good way to draw sort of a conclusion to our academic year. And as we draw conclusion to things, we have a transition from our executive staff, and I always like to recognize those individuals that are transitioning from us, whether it's to retirement or in this case to new challenges. And tonight I'd like to recognize Brooks Smith, and all of you know Brooks, our Executive Director of Career and Technical Education. He's done an excellent job helping to forge the future path for career and technical education in Greenville County schools. He's had a great vision. He's worked extremely hard to bring that vision to life. He leaves us now with the challenge of filling in the details to that vision and carrying that vision forward and continuing to move us on a forward trajectory. He will, from this, I guess, point forward, be known as Dean Smith, as he's becoming the dean of the, Brooks, give me the correct title of the college. Augusta Technical College. So we have our, at least for a few more hours, our very own Dean Smith. Now, ordinarily, I do this part at one of our staff meetings, but I mentioned to the board I'd like just a privilege for a few minutes tonight. You know, if you retire, you get, depending on how many years you've been here, you get a glass book or various representations for years. Well, Brooks has not really been here long enough to retire from us, although he is retiring from South Carolina and pursuing this new opportunity. But we thought we wanted to make sure that he had a memento by which to remember his service in Greenville County Schools. And Brooks has been very instrumental in going out and getting the support of our business and industry community to career technical education. It's vital to the economic growth of our community, and it requires a great partnership between us and business and industry. Well, he's been not only out there initiating ideas and promoting partnerships, but actually, on many occasions, receiving from this business and industry cutting-edge, state-of-the-art equipment for our career and technology centers. I think he knows where I'm going with this. I look out my window one day, out the back window of my office, and Brooks is pulling up in his truck. And the back of his truck is full of shovels. He had 200 shovels in the back of that truck. Well, I was a little bit curious about that, so I go downstairs and find Brooks. And he and Brittany are hauling all these shovels in the building. What are you doing? Well, somebody gave us these shovels. They're brand new shovels. And I said, now, Brooks, help me understand this. This is your idea of cutting-edge career and technical equipment. I said, what are you going to do with all these shovels? Well, he said he's going to take them to the career center. I'm not real sure where all those shovels ended up. I'm sure that there's some kid somewhere digging something with one of those shovels. But we felt like, Brooks, that it would be a fitting monument to your tenure in Greenville County Schools to present you with your own shovel. So if you'll come forward. Now, this is a lot nicer shovel than the ones you have. Because this is an official Greenville County Schools shovel. With a G on it. We didn't have a G plus that we put in there, we just had a G. So from all your friends here, in recognition of your service, your accomplishments, really, we very much appreciate it. And knowing your friends, we thought that might be something that you would enjoy having.
Oh, that was great.
Now, don't leave that just laying around where somebody could pick it up.
Somebody might take that. Be careful.
Thank you, Dr. O'Connor.
Thank you very much. Okay, I need some smart person to help with making all these motions coming up. More than one, perhaps. The next item on our agenda is action item 6.01 for the FY19 General Obligation Bonds Resolution.
Madam Chair.
Ms. Roletter.
I move to approve Board Policy JC-DAG as amended.
Second.
Thank you. Is that?
No, it's,
The recommended motion from the administration is to approve the resolution for FY19 general obligation bonds.
I'm looking at the
It's
wrong
the
one.
first one.
Okay.
So go to 6.01.
I withdraw my
first.
second.
Somebody want to make that?
Yeah. I will, Ms. Wells?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the no, wrong one, sorry. On the wrong item. I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolution for the FY19 General Obligation Bonds Series 2018.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion, or Dr. Royster, would you like to comment on the item at all?
Unless there's a question that either I can answer or Mr.
Okay.
Knotts can answer.
Okay, if hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. And the motion carries. The next item, 6.02. Would anyone like to make this motion?
Madam Chair.
Ms. Leventis Wells?
I'd like to recommend to approve the FY19 debt service budget.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. And the motion carries. Our next agenda item, 6.03, relating to the FY19 Best Debt Service Budget. Do I have a motion?
Madam Chairman,
Mr. Sailors?
I move to approve the fiscal year 2019 Best Debt Service Budget as presented.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. And the motion carries. The next item of business, 6.04.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the FY19 Building Fund budget.
Second.
Okay, I
I'd like
have
to make a second.
motion and a second. Is there any discussion on this item? Hearing none. Oh, Ms. Wells?
So I had one question. We've got, on one of the line items, it was projected unassigned fund balance in that account, in that fund.
Mr. Knox?
Yes.
So generally, are we... projecting for the next year that we're going to have, we've had and are going to continue to have around $5 million unassigned fund balance. Do we have that projected to go towards something in the future? Or
No, ma'am. That's what it states as far as unassigned fund balance and the projection for this time next year. This for the building fund to have an unassigned fund balance about $5.2 million. And we like to keep it in that range just to be able to address any kind of emergencies that may arise during the course of the year.
Okay, so that's reallocated as needed out of that account with...
If it were to be needed, but it's customarily we've not needed it, but it's kind of our general operating practice has been to maintain pretty much that amount for how many years, Jeff? Now?
About for the past 10 to 12 years.
Okay, so when we have things come up, like we had money we spent toward additional security stuff, we've had budget changes, we don't ever really, you don't ever just take that money and assign it to any of those capital projects. You're always just coming back, you're leaving that there.
We always try to end the year with that amount in place.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any further discussion on this item? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. And the motion carries. Next item on the agenda, 6.05, the Food and Nutrition Services Budget.
Madam
Chair, I'd like
Yep.
to...
Mr. Lewis?
Go ahead, Chair. Go.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the FY19 Food and Nutrition Services budget.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. And Dr. Royster has a comment that he would like to make on this item, and then we'll see if there are questions. Oh.
You all have probably already noted this, but the USDA this year allowed for a waiver in the required increase to meals, student meals, and so we have opted to recommend taking advantage of that waiver. Now, nothing appears in front of you, so we're not recommending a meal increase to our students for the coming year because of our ability under the waiver not to do so, and the fact that we have very strong, sound financial report from Food and Nutrition Services. Anything you want to add to that, Jeff?
No, sir. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and Mr. Lewis first, and then Ms. Leventis Wells.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just a couple of questions. So one, as a comment, I appreciate us not raising the cost on food if we're not required to. Do we expect that to be a 1-year reprieve from the 10-cent rule, or is this now, has that rule been gotten away with? I mean, what do we expect to happen next year?
Well, the direction, the letter from the USDA said this was a 1-year reprieve. So
Okay.
this time next year, or in next April or May, we can see what they decide for next year.
But we don't have reason to expect that next year we'll have to make up this 10 cents with an additional 20% increase next year.
They did not indicate something along those lines in that letter.
Okay. The other question I have is, this budget includes a 2% raise for fans staff, 2% increase
sir.
in staff salaries. I thought that in the general fund budget, we approved 3% increases for...
No, sir, that was for the teachers. The teacher averaged about 3.2%. For the other general fund staff, it was 2%.
Okay, so is this 2% increase in addition to what we approved of the general fund, or they're funded separately, and so this is their 2%?
This is a separate fund from the general fund, the special revenue fund, so it is not in addition to the general fund. raise.
So the fans staff salary increase is equal to the other non-teaching salary increases that we approved in the general fund budget?
That's correct.
Do we expect there, I mean, I know this time last year, we felt like our salaries were competitive in this sector. And then I know some of the conversations we had afterwards were, now there are a lot more restaurants opening up. We now are really seeing that our employees are now being drawn to other food service industries. Do we feel like our salaries are competitive at where they are with the 2% increase?
I guess the way I can answer that is based on how many vacancies do we maintain during the course of the year, and how hard it is to fill those vacancies. We average between 10 to 15 vacancies during the course of the year, which is, for close to 500 employees, is not a lot of vacancies, and we seem to be able to fill them readily. Mr. Urban is in the audience. I'm not sure if he wants to add anything to that.
No, I believe you got me. Our most challenging employee groups to recruit to continue to be bus drivers, followed by custodial. And generally speaking, we've not had tremendous difficulty with food service. One advantage that we have in the food service area, and I think Joe would quickly tell you that because of his background in it, our hours are much more appealing to people in that business and industry than working in the private sector in food service. So while our salaries may not be quite as high, the attractiveness of the work hours helps to offset that. We would certainly we felt like that we were behind competitively, would certainly bring you a recommendation to go beyond the 2%, as we've done in years past with bus driver salaries.
Sure. So we don't feel like that we have an increased turnover, that we feel like our salaries are keeping people happy where they are working in the district. We feel good that we're addressing turnover rates with this 2% increase?
Yes, I do.
Because I have to tell you, that when William got out of first grade, the only two people he hugged was his teacher and the woman who runs the lunch line in the cafeteria. And he made it clear to me that he was going to miss her most of all because he was going to see Miss Castles at church. So William's away at camp, and so on his behalf, I just want to make sure that I'm doing my part to make sure that everybody's good. Thank y'all for all you do. I really appreciate what you're able to do for 250 is really incredible.
And I think we all know that William is one of our most valued customers because he is very vocal in his support for food and nutrition services.
And his mom and I are thankful that we don't pack a meal at all for him. So, thank y'all.
Ms. Leventis-Wells?
Yes, well, I certainly don't want to take away from William because that little fella does love his lunches, and he asks every morning, is this what we're having for lunch? And I want to commend Food and Services for all you do for all of the children in our district. And I appreciate all who work under your leadership, and I thank you for your service. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Ms. Wells?
The miscellaneous revenue that we have, it's kind of moved up and down. It was 850 in FY17, and then projected for 18 to be 285, but then proposed in the budget back up to 800,000. What is that revenue?
The miscellaneous revenue includes money from a fruit and vegetables grant, and I'm kind of embarrassed to say this, royalty from a Cluck's Deluxe chicken. No, we did have a sandwich called Clucks Deluxe, and we get about $20,000 a year in royalties from individuals using that name. We also receive money from catering. We also, the main reason for the increase is the food service we're using $567,000 budgeted use of their unassigned fund balance as a one-time revenue source for next year. That's the reason for the increase.
Okay, so that's
Yeah,
the jump from the 250 to the
Yes, ma'am.
818. Is taking money out of fund balance, okay. Okay.
In fact, I think if Jeff were to say that phrase one more time, he would have to pay us a quarter for actually saying it.
What, can you tell us what makes the Cluck Deluxe? Cluck what?
I think we might have to defer to Mr. Urban on what makes a Clucks Deluxe.
So a number of years ago, before I was here, we developed a branded chicken program in Greenville called Clucks Deluxe. It was our Chick-fil-A sandwich. It caught on, and it started being sold across the country. So everywhere it was sold, we got a little royalty from it. So we no longer sell it, but we still receive a little bit.
Wow, that's impressive.
All right, so I'm just saying we should be looking for our next Cluck Deluxe. Cluck Deluxe. All right, thank you.
Okay, I've completely lost track now.
Clucks
Deluxe
vote.
just put me off.
Don't think you voted
Yeah,
yet.
okay. All those in favor of Clucks Deluxe and the other item on the table, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. And the motion carries. The next item, 6.06, special revenues. Do I have a motion?
Madam Chairman, I make a motion to approve proposed FY19 special revenue budgets.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on this item? Okay, Ms. Goodwin-Caldwell?
Under the special projects budgets, the Title II, where it says that it funds 21 first grade reduced class size teachers. I thought that the state gave us money to fund reduced class size for first grade. Do they no longer give us money for that?
I don't think we still, we don't get any EIA reduced class size money anymore, do we, Stephanie? So our 19-to-1 that we set at first grade is funded out of a combination of general fund dollars, and that's the majority of the Title II federal dollars we spend on reduced class size in grade 1.
So the state no longer gives us first grade reduced class size?
Not specifically for first grade reduced class size, no.
They stopped it this year? When did they stop it? Really?
We've continued to carry it at the same level using general fund and Title II dollars. So to a school, they never noticed the change, but we no longer get that revenue designated from the state. That's correct. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's all I had.
Okay. Mr. Lewis?
Just a couple of questions about some of the lines in the budget. So number 2 is the mobile device access. Can somebody explain what that fund is going towards?
Yes, sir. I believe Mr. Brown is in the audience.
That was a grant that we received from the state, $1.2 million to put Wi-Fi on our buses.
Okay.
And the funds that are currently in there are to carry over for the Verizon service for multiple years.
Okay. And that was for, so that's for the Wi-Fi on the buses for 5 years? Was that what the, and we're now in year?
Come up on 3.
Okay. And so is this $393,000, is that what we would expect the cost is going to be to the district to continue that program?
No, it's
after
actually
the
about $195,000 a year.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. The item number 3 is the early childhood programs, and I just had a question. In 2018, the budget was $4.9 million, and in this year's budget, it's $4.4 million. Was there a reason for the reduction, and is there a reduction in classes or in services because of that?
At this point, we don't have the final allocation from the state known at this point. Also, any carryover that we may have from FY18 and FY19 has not been finalized. So we're basically budgeting on what the allocation was last year, the current allocation. So that most likely will change once we get information from the state and determine the carryover amount from this year into next year.
Do we expect, based on the budget that we have here, would there be a reduction in the number of students served in the 4K program?
No, sir, there will not be.
Okay.
Our goal has been, and we've met this for several years now, is to serve all eligible, the qualification process for, as you're very familiar with, for 4K, that we serve all eligible students, or offer them the opportunity to attend. And we've been able to do that for several years, and I don't anticipate anything would prevent that this year. Of course, sometimes that number will fluctuate due to the number of those students in the population.
Okay, but we don't anticipate a reduction in the number of students served.
No, sir.
If the state reduces the amount of funds they provide for us.
No, sir.
Thank you. The item number 17 is industry certificates. Who provides funding for industry certificates? Like where do those funds come from?
For this allocation is coming from the state.
So this is an allocation from the state in addition to our general fund allocation that's specifically for paying for those certificates. What is that?
Let me.
The 167,000.
Mr. Smith?
It's for anything that is related to industry certification. So if it's related to, say, welding certification, AWS welding, it's the money that it might take to train the instructor or to pay for the test itself for the student. But anything related to enabling a student to earn industry certification, those funds come from the state to be used for that.
Okay, thank you. The last one I have is item number 27 is the Title I funds, and in last year's budget it was $21.6 million, and this year's budget it's $20.2 million. Can somebody speak to the reduction there? Was that a reduction from the feds as an allocation, or is it a reduction in the number of qualified students? Where does that reduction come from?
At this point, we have not received the allocation from the feds. Generally, we get it in the May timeframe, but we have not received the allocation for FY19 from the federal government yet.
Okay. And Dr. Rush, I don't want to hold up the approval of this, but that's a significant investment that we have of Title I funds. Is it possible that the administration could come back to us in the fall, August, September, or sometime to to provide a committee the whole presentation on what those Title I funds are used for, and maybe how different schools are choosing to invest their Title I funds outside of us approving it in the budget?
Yes, sir, certainly.
I just think that's such a significant investment, and I think we could learn a lot, particularly from the on-track schools, of kind of what they have learned based on the on-track program for how they are choosing to invest their dollars. I would just really appreciate hearing a presentation on that at some time in the future.
We'll get that scheduled for August or September.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Yeah, so I had one follow-up question also on number 17. So the amount of money we have is going to be, appears to be significantly less than what we had budgeted last year, but I don't remember that there was anything in particular in our general fund budget to address that. So I guess the question I have is, were we spending and relying on all that money toward industry certificates, and if so, how are we going to make up what we're not going to get next year?
This is another another state allocation that we have not received the final amount for FY19. The budget you see there is based on estimations of the budget for next year. And I believe Mrs. Smith can answer the other questions.
Well, I guess it just surprises me, since we're putting a priority on trying to increase the number of certificates that our students receive, college and career ready and all that. So I'm surprised that if that number has come down, I just kind of give me a little bit of help. Mr. Smith, did we spend all that money out of this year's budget? And if we're only projecting, we had $291,000 in this past year's budget, and we're projecting $168,000 in next year's budget, which is significantly less.
Those allocations come from the state. Those are determined by the state.
I get that. So did we spend all the money they gave us this past year?
Yes.
Okay, so and I'm assuming, because you're exceptional in your work, we hate to see you leave, that we used all the things that we did, we're going to continue to do to support an increasing number of certificates being achieved by our students.
Yes, because we were doing those things before we even received that money from the state. So the state isn't actually helping with that, but we were actually doing those things before the state.
Okay, so
This is new money from the state.
So we had adequate. So we had adequate funding previously in our general fund budget to do these things to prepare students to, right? Dr. Royster, do you understand?
Let me choose a different answer to that. We had a adequate amount for a lesser number. This helped us with the fact we had an increased number. I think the other kind of cautionary word there is this is a best conservative estimate of what that allocation will be that we won't truly know until the state finalizes their budget. If we were to run into a problem there, we'd come back to you and say, we got a problem here. We got $100,000 worth of certifications we think kids are going on, we don't have the money to pay for. Don't think that's going to happen. You know, if we had to take it out of the contingency in my office or whatever until we can get to the next budget year, I guess a short version of that would be it's a little bit premature for us to worry about the amount at this point.
Okay. Well, what you just said is what I wanted to hear, which is we're not going to go backwards in making sure we have the resources to prepare students and to help them with those tests and exams they need to take to get certificates.
Never going backwards.
Okay. Okay, good. And then I guess similarly then, I was going to ask a question about the summer reading camps. And I can't remember again, maybe we had something in the general fund budget, but we're getting half, we're projecting we're going to get half of what we've gotten previously for those summer reading camps.
That's been a struggle. One of the things, though, that does happen because it is at the very end of the year, if Mr. McCoy has budgets within his office that have funding remaining in them, can move that around. Some of those things that we do there may qualify as reimbursable services. We've taken money from as many places as we can pull it to cover that. In fact, I got an inquiry from one of the senators yesterday about the fiscal impact of Read to Succeed. And one of the points that we've made in responding to that is here's the amount that we're spending and here's what we're getting from the state, and it's not at pace with the state's commitment to Read to Succeed. So at a point, we may need to come back and look at including some allocation for that in the general fund. If we continue to have large numbers that need to go to summer reading camp. And we've included students in summer reading camp, and Mr. McCoy's at the ST conference in Chicago. He could better answer this than I can. But we've included students that wouldn't be required to go because it'll be helpful to them. So we've pulled as many sources for funding for that as we can possibly pull. Again, because it's right at the end of the fiscal year, that helps us with that.
Okay. So, again, the question is even though we are seeing, it appears that we're going to get less than half of the funds that we had gotten previously, we still believe we're going to provide the same level of service and support to students.
And that also is a conservative estimate of a number we don't yet have.
And we've also received, in the April-May timeframe, additional funds this year for the summer reading camp. We did not include that in the projection for next year because we don't know what those amounts may be for next year.
Okay.
But if we begin to see an indication of a problem there, we would let you all know.
So right now, as far we can consider that we're going to stay on the same path of providing the same level of service to the same number of students, even though this funding level appears to be significantly less from the state. Okay.
And hopefully that number will not remain significantly less when the state finalizes their budget.
Okay.
And apparently their conference committee is meeting right now.
Okay, great. All right, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Goodwin-Caldwell.
Burke, on line, I guess it is 39, the Math and Science Unit Coaching Initiative through Clemson, is that something different from our math and science academic specialists that we have? What is that?
That's not if you're asking those, the academic specialists in
Yeah, but
academics
what is-
downstairs,
what-
that's not them.
But what is
Jeff,
this
do you know the
coaching
detail of that?
This is for math and reading coaching initiative. The allocation, again, is based on this year.
There are two math club coaches that are part of that grant.
So that's a grant allocation for supplemental coaching. Thank you.
Our coaches, but extra.
Did you hear the explanation?
They're not our academic coaches,
No,
but
they're-
they are extra coaches
Funded through a grant,
that Clemson provides.
funded through a state grant.
Okay. That's all, thank you.
Okay. I think there are no other questions. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. And the motion carries. Our next item is 6.07, the nomination for Champions for Public Education is the Greenville Drive, and I spoke to that item last time. And coming from Committee of the Whole, it does not require a second. Is there any further discussion on the item?
Madam Chair, I truly believe that the Greenville Drive has done so much for public education and for all of our students in Greenville County School District. With the reading programs and acknowledging all of our students when they walk on the field and so forth, I think this would be an outstanding opportunity for us to highlight and to appreciate Greenville Drive for all that they do. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. I couldn't agree more. And I believe that if there's no further discussion, we'll go ahead and vote on the motion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. And the motion carries. I hope they will be successful in receiving this favorable outcome. The next item on the agenda is 6.08, the renewal of lease agreement between the School District of Greenville County and the County of Greenville Slater Marietta Elementary School. The recommended motion from the Committee of the Whole is to approve the lease agreement between the school district and the County of Greenville for after-hours use of the park area located at Slater Marietta Elementary School for a period of 5 years beginning June 2018. The item comes from committee and doesn't require a second. Is there any discussion on the item? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. And the motion carries. The next item, 6.09, is the audit of separation of employees. The recommended motion from the Internal Auditing Services is to accept the audit of separation of employees for the period of July 1, 2017 through February 28, 2018. Do I have a motion?
Madam Chairman,
Ms. Wells?
I move to accept the audit of separation of employees for the period July 1st, 2017 through February 28th, 2018.
I have a motion and a second. Mr. Barber, did you have any comments you wish to make on this item?
I have a short presentation.
Okay.
We perform this audit to determine if payroll checks and benefits are terminated in a timely manner after an employee resigns, retires, or is terminated. The total number of employees terminated employment with the school district from this period equaled 226. We sorted these terminations by reason and randomly selected a sample of 60 employees that were included in our test work. The audit report consists of 2 observations. The first observation concerned the termination information was not entered timely for one employee. Due to this delay, the employee was overpaid by 2 paychecks, totaling a net amount of $2,427.24. Although the employee was overpaid, the payroll department was able to recover the overpayments. Then the employee was issued the corrected final paycheck. And we have our recommendation. The second observation was concerns when an employee leaves the district, all district-owned items are required to be returned to the employee's supervisor. One of those items is the employee's identification badge. 2 employees' badges could not be collected, and the supervisors did not notify the personnel to deactivate the badges. Of course, our recommendation, administration should remind supervisors of the importance of notifying appropriate personnel to terminate an employee's badge access when the employee leaves the district. We are presenting this report for your acceptance, Madam Chairman. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions, Mr. Suddeth?
Mr. Barber, what's the reason why the employee badges could not be collected?
I think, let me see if we have those reasons. In our work papers, we have due to the employee's position, he or she did not have any items to return with the exception of an ID badge. The badge was not returned, and the school did not inform the appropriate district personnel to deactivate the badge. So those employees left without returning their badges.
Why did the supervisor fail to notify the district personnel?
I can't answer that, Mr. Sutton.
Is that all, Mr. Suddeth?
Give me the recommendation. We should remind supervisors of the importance of notifying appropriate personnel to terminate employees' badge access when that employee leaves the district.
Yes, sir.
We have to remind them.
I think without the specific answer, Mr. Sutton, it's simply human error and neglect to do that. We probably have a turnover of 700-800 employees a year. 1,200. So on occasion, somebody's going to leave with a badge, and they, sometimes just things they have going on, they don't remember to do that. It's extremely important. We remind them of it. We've now changed our procedure so that when their email is terminated, their badge is deactivated. Those were done by 2 different people in 2 different departments. Now they're done in one department by a designated person. That will minimize the error and help us to catch it, but it won't. Again, people sometimes just make a mistake.
Human error.
Yes, sir. Pretty low percentage, though, which is what we look at when we get these findings. What's the percentage of times that was determined, and is it a flaw in our system, or is it simply someone made a mistake? And in this case, it appears to be someone made a mistake, but through Mr. Barber's audit, we looked at that and said, well, this will be a better procedure if we only have one person in one place doing it instead of 2 people in 2 places. That's one less person to neglect to do something.
Do we check to see that personnel return keys to have access to the building?
Yes, sir.
Did you find any exceptions on that, Mr. Barber?
No, sir.
We issue fewer and fewer keys because we use electronic entry now. There's still people that have what we call hard keys to a building, but they are fewer and fewer, and most everyone's access from the outside to get into the building is through card key, just like coming in the back door here. So when they leave, you kill the access card.
Still serves the same purpose, though, doesn't it? If I've got a key or if I got a card access, we'd want to make sure the card access would be turned in.
Yes, sir. But it's much easier to retrieve the card because you can deactivate it remotely. You don't have to have the card in your possession.
Okay, thanks, sir.
Okay, Mr. Sailors?
Dr. Royster's comments answered most of my questions, and just so I've got the math right, over the period of time, we're talking 1,200 employees leave roughly on an annual basis, and how many did not return their ID badge? Rick?
Our sample, the population that during this period of time was 226. We sampled 60, so there was 2, so that's like 3.5%, 4%.
So hypothetically, 1,200 employees, we're talking 3%.
Yes,
okay.
sir.
Okay, and like I said earlier, Dr. Royster's comments answered the rest of my questions. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Okay, next I have Mr. Lewis.
All right, so I think I understood that answer, which was my question. So we have roughly about 1,200 people that resign annually.
Resign, retire, leave under whatever.
And of those 1,200 people, we sampled 60. That was kind of our random sampling was 60.
No, sir. The period of time that we looked at was July 1st, 2017 through February 28th, 2018, so it wasn't a complete year.
Okay.
And in that period of time, there were 226 employees resigned, retired, or terminated.
Okay. And so of those, then we have...
And we picked 60, yes, sir.
And of those, we have an incident where someone was overpaid.
Yes, sir.
And then we collected money back from that person for money that we overpaid them?
Yes, sir.
That stinks.
No, that was very fortunate.
So their check was deposited, and then we went back
I don't
to
know
them
exactly
to
how Mr. Knox did that, but I guess he's going to explain. I don't know if he went out the house and got his money back.
You could come to my house.
Mr. Knights?
One check, we were able to retrieve the money out of the person's account, bring it back within the next day of the check being issued. The other check has already made it into the ex-employee's account. We contacted an employee and worked out an arrangement for that employee to return the money and then issued a final correct amount.
Okay.
That was a very unusual circumstance. Somebody in HR had pulled the original paperwork to follow up on why the person was leaving. And that's what caused them to be overpaid. Normally, they would have made a copy of that and made a note to follow up on it, but they pulled the original.
Okay.
So that was, well, but really less concerning. It was human error, exactly, Michelle, but less concerning to us than the ID badge thing, because that indicated to us we needed to maybe look at our system, and as I indicated, we've tweaked that system to make it, we think, better. Although that was, to Mr. Barber's point, 220-something, and he looked at a sample size of 60. That's a 30% sample size, which is a pretty good sample size for that period of time, and found 2. But we, ideally, we don't want to find any.
The final question I have is, I know in your summary you mentioned that there were improvements from the process when you guys audited this in 2014.
Yes, sir.
Versus now. Can you just elaborate on any of that? I mean,
well, a lot of it had to do with the new software with Lawson, and the administration, since they use it on a daily basis, probably can give you a little bit better than we can. Also, they also improve the form when employees leave the district, that it's a check-off list that they collect keys and cards and computers and those sorts of things. So that was really better than we saw back in 2014 also.
Okay, thank you.
Is that everything, Mr. Lewis? Anyone else? Okay, I have a motion and a second, and if there's no further discussion on the item, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. And the motion carries. The next item on our agenda is item 6.10, and I am going to turn it over to Dr. Royster. I believe that he is interested in requesting to withdraw this item.
Yes, we place this item on here simply as a, I guess lack of a better term, precaution. Should the legislature have acted on the budget and done anything in their final budget that would cause us to need to amend our general fund budget, we went ahead and placed the item on there. The conference committee is now back meeting again. They started back at 8 o'clock. That's when I stepped out a while ago to kind of check on that. Without trying to be overly optimistic, it seems they may be on a path that would have very minimal impact to our budget. So it is seemingly more and more likely we would not need to ask you to amend the FY19 general fund budget. That's still possible. One of the points of contention was teacher salary. Well, if they change the teacher salary and go to 1.5% instead of 1%, that would have an impact to us. We might need to ask you to revise the general fund budget. And we would need you to act on the teacher salaries and revise the budget prior to the first check that a teacher would receive for the coming year. You know, they get paid over the summer, but they're actually getting money paid to them that they've already earned. Their new pay doesn't start July 1. Everybody else's new pay that works 12 months starts July 1. Custodians, people in this building, maintenance, those folks. What we would need to ask, if that were to be the case, and we think that's in hope that if that's not likely, we would need to request of the chair a special call meeting no later than, I think we decided August the 8th.
August the 7th.
August the 7th.
Yes, sir.
To act on any revision that might be necessary. We're hoping that won't be necessary, but that gives payroll time to, now they can do a whole lot of work preliminary to that, because it's not really an issue where you have a choice. It's something we would have to do if they change the teacher salary schedule. And that would give us plenty of time to put that into effect. If that happens, the revenue could go up, might not go up. Our worst case scenario, we'd be out maybe about $1.5 million. $1.5 million is a large sum, but not in the magnitude of our budget. But we'd still come back to you for action on that. It appears that will not, we're very hopeful that won't be necessary. So we would request that you all pull that item tonight, and we would immediately notify you if something appears to be going to create the need for a special call meeting, and have that very first part of August on or before the 7th.
Okay, before we withdraw the item, though, Mr. Lewis had a question or comment.
Just to say that if at all possible, are there paths forward where if the General Assembly doesn't fulfill its earlier commitment to fund teacher salaries at the rate that we budgeted for, that we could cover the difference between what the General Assembly allows for and what we may fund here in Greenville because we've already made that commitment to teachers? Or are we bound by whatever number the General Assembly uses as a salary increase?
I believe that they are at a point now where they could not go below what you did.
Okay.
They could go above that.
Okay.
If they did go above that, they could provide some additional revenue. If they don't, without holding us to this number, probably the worst case is $1.5 million.
That would be $1.5 million of additional funds we'd need to come up with to make whole the commitment that we originally made to teachers.
And our recommendation to you at that point would most likely be that you utilize your fund balance to carry that for 1 year. Again, it's within the amount we normally would end the year with revenue and excessive expense. But we're very cautious about never trying to spend above the 99% of our budget. So as a protective cushion, we would come back to you and ask you to designate the amount from fund balance that would cover the shortfall.
Okay.
So we can tell you now what our strategy and recommendation would be. We hope that won't be necessary, though.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys working on that. That was my only request, was that if at all possible that we could come back with a plan that could make that original commitment whole.
That would be our recommendation if they go a little bit higher than what you had done. So absent revenue to offset it, you know what our recommendation is going to be coming back to you.
Anything else? Okay, we are withdrawing the need to make such a revision at this time. The next item on our agenda, item 6.11, relates to the acquisition of property. Ms. Wells, would you like to make this motion, please?
Yes, ma'am. Madam Chairman, thank you. I would like to move to approve the purchase of approximately 1.23 acres in a 1,238 square foot home for $200,000.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to second the motion.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the item? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. And the motion carries. So we have now purchased the property at 718 Quillen Avenue. Thank you very much. Mr. Barber, we will come back to you now, item 7.01, for the Internal Auditing Services Project Status Report for information only.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. We're presenting our status report on the projects that we are currently working on. We have 3 that are 90% complete, and hopefully we'll be completing those shortly. And hopefully, we're hoping to bring the fuel tank monitoring system to the board in August. We're hoping that to happen or at the latest September. And other than that, I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay. Any questions of Mr. Barber? Mr. Lewis?
Mr. Barber, since the last time that we met, we've added a project to the 2018 calendar, which is the employee work hours project. Could you provide some explanation on that project and maybe what led you to add that project?
We noticed when we were working on the extended day audit that we had, there were some salary non-exempt employees that we noticed weren't working their total 37 and a half hours per work week. So we thought it would be good to go ahead and conduct another audit and look at the whole school district, that type of personnel, to make sure that those employees are working the minimum work hours.
So we found instance where a salaried employee was also being compensated from an extended day program. Is that?
That's correct. They may have been working as an aide, and then they had a second job as extended day, and they weren't working their full 37 and a half hours as an aide, and they were clocking in an extended day and getting paid in an extended day program.
Okay. So will you need to conclude the employee work hours audit in order to conclude the extended day audit, or are
No,
they
sir.
They're separate audits?
They're separate. Yes, sir.
And so one will, I assume, mention these findings, but then will we need to wait until the employee work hour audit is concluded before we are provided that kind of information, or will it be in the 2017 audit as well?
Whatever we found in extended day, we'll report in extended day audit.
Okay. Okay. And right now, the status of that audit is
90%.
90%
complete
on your end before being presented to the administration?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions of Mr. Barber? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barber. Appreciate it very much. Our next agenda item is committee liaison reports. Ms. Grayson had to step away, but I do not believe that she had a report at this time. Ms. Wells?
Yeah, just from a South Carolina School Boards Association perspective, I wanted to remind you guys that the hotel block opened today for the law conference in August. So if you plan to attend, it'd be good to let Ms. Whitehouse know that you're attending. I would request that if you don't plan to attend, don't ask for a room. One of the issues we're having statewide with the conference that we discussed at the board of directors meeting is that what happens is our administrative assistants across all the districts, when that block opens, they're all immediately blocking out rooms for their entire board, whether their board is attending or not, because they want to make sure they have rooms. Then invariably what happens is we end up people get bumped away from the primary hotel and get sent to other hotels, which doesn't make them very happy. They don't like being away and then having to transport back and forth. And so it just causes a logistics problem, because then people at the last minute cancel out of their rooms, and we still have a block of rooms that end up being open but not being used by school board members. So the request from the board of directors was kind of just that we share and set an example with our boards to say that we're going to request a room early if we need one, but if we don't need a room, we're going to be considerate of others' needs and not request a room. So,
okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate that, and I
understand our illustrious legal counsel will again be presenting at the law conference.
Oh, wonderful.
So there's more, right, exactly, more incentive to go and learn from Mr. Webb.
No, they're running out of options. That's the problem.
Very nice, Mr. Webb. And I have no update from the chair other than the fact that some people cheated at charades when we finally got around to playing our game. But other than that, it was a lovely professional development and retreat. I would just like to, before we go to the last item, I'll ask Dr. Oyster, do you have anything that you want to present on our monthly financial report, or is it just for
if anybody
questions
has
or
a
comments?
question, we're trying to draw to a quick conclusion this fiscal year and close everything out so that auditors can finish their work and produce their final report. So.
Any other questions of Mr. Knotts? Okay, Mr. Sailors?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. If I could, please, just for a moment, in addition to Mrs. Wells' report about the School Board Association, they always say bad things happen in threes, and many of you know Queenie Boyd from Lee County. She's been here several times. Recently, she lost her sister in an automobile accident, and they laid her to rest recently. So I know that, I wasn't sure if everyone knew that. And then Jamie Devine, who serves as an officer of the association from Richland 1, his mother passed, and they laid her to rest earlier this week. And then I think all of us know Kathy Coleman. And Kathy's 24-year-old son was killed in a car accident, and we laid him to rest a week ago yesterday. And so Thomas left not only a wife but a 2-year-old son. And they have established a scholarship fund for his child with the State Treasurer's Department. So if anyone would like to make a contribution to that, Lisa or I can get you the information for that. But I would ask that we keep all three of these families in your prayers. And then related to this evening's activities and election, I want to thank Dr. O'Connor and the officers for the work that they've done this year, or this year and a half. And it's been very transitional, and a lot of work has been done. One of the analogies that I use quite often is we have about this much work to do and about this much time to get it accomplished. And I think that we pulled that off rather well this year, and so I thank you for your service. Over the month of July, I would like to have some conversations with everyone to find out what your goals, your aspirations, your interests are. So as we get into August, we're all working the ground running and not waiting until August to get some of this work accomplished. So the officers will get together toward the end of July when Ms. Fitzer gets back from her long anticipated trip to Canada. If you can get over and get back. And we don't know if we're at war with Canada right now or not. But anyway, we'll send out some information, and I'd like to poll each of you on some of your interests and timelines and stuff like that. But again, thank you for your service, and I look forward to working with everyone here. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sailors. And I would, before I call on Mr. Meek, I want to say, Mr. Meek, thank you for being a great teacher for Robert's Rules for me and helping me get into this spot quickly and to anticipate well. So thank you. And Mr. Meek, I turn it over to you now.
To adjourn.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor of adjournment, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. And we are adjourned. Thank you very much.
You did a good job. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Bert, very much. You made it very easy for me to